to this really interesting class talking through the positive externalities in consumption, what that means for the free market and how that might differ from the social optimum. We'll also look at the welfare loss. We will look at the welfare loss in more detail another time in addition. This is more of an introduction. Here is some definition to help you recap. So we have MPB, that means marginal private benefit, and that means the benefit to an individual of the individual consuming an extra unit of a good or service. MEB was the benefit third parties face. It means marginal external benefit. In other words, is what we call externality. That is the benefit third parties face of an individual consuming an extra unit of the good or service. Remember, these were the third parties that just got the benefit even though they didn't necessarily demand or supply the goods. MSB is the total benefit society faces of an individual consuming an extra unit of the good or service. Remember to keep your eyes peeled when it says society. It means everybody, including the individual and the third parties. Remember, we have this equation linking them together where MPB, let me take the opportunity, MPB plus MEB equals MSB. And here we have a graph. We have the marginal social benefit being higher than the marginal private benefit. So we can infer using the equation we've just seen. Let me write it here. We can infer from this equation, this means there has been a positive marginal external benefit, mathematically positive marginal external benefit. Based on that definition, what does that mean? It means third parties have received an extra benefit that they didn't have before. So third parties are super happy in this context because they've received these benefits that they didn't intend. So what we call this is a positive consumption externality. And this diagram shows its effects. So in a free market, remember how we find the allocation? If not, take a look at the video on the link below. To find the free market allocation, we need to set the MPB curve equal to the MPC curve. So I'm going to highlight them so you can see where they are. MPC is here, MPB is there. I mean, it's even better to grab a highlighter and actually have a go at drawing this yourself so you can see kind of where they coincide. That's the MPB and that's the MPC. Therefore, the free market equilibrium is QFM at that low quantity. Whereas if you wanted to look and find the social optimum, you have to set the MSB equal to the MSC. We went through a few really cool steps. Follow the link below and you'll be able to see why at QSO welfare is maximized. So that's why we call it the social optimum. Social welfare is maximized. And you can see that these curves coincide to produce the equilibrium at QSO and PSO. It's really important for you to remember that that doesn't actually mean that the price will be PSO or that the quantity will be QSO. In fact, these are more like reference points. Idealism, like the ideal is that we did reach QSO and we did reach this price where the demand had been higher, so the price would have been higher because the demand is higher. But we won't get there in this selfish free market kind of world assumption that we have. The free market will be consuming less than the social optimum. And we know that there will be a welfare loss because all these units that haven't been produced between QFM and QSO, we're going to look in lots of detail, but we're going to find that all of these have benefits higher than costs. So there could have been a welfare gain by producing more units than QFM and producing up to QSO. Therefore, we're going to see that by producing at QFM, society is worse off. There's been a welfare loss compared to what could be possible at QSO. And here's a summary based on what we saw in the previous video. By not consuming these units, society has lost out on gaining this extra welfare. This is because all of these units have MSB exceeding MSC. Remember, for QFM, the benefits to society was here, and then the cost to society was only down there. Therefore, there's more benefits than costs, and producing this good is good to society. Producing this next unit, again, more benefits than costs, which again means society overall has been helped. All of these units, it's true that the benefits exceed the costs to society, so all of these, aside from that last one, were geared up to add more benefits than costs. So they definitely should have been provided if we were in a world that was more socially minded than this free market assumption that we have. So the units between QFM and QSO could have added a net welfare gain to society as the benefit exceeds the cost for each of these units. Here I have this same graph kind of in a table. I've got these particular units showing that there's going to be a possible welfare gain. So for example, at unit 5 in this diagram, unit 5 had a benefit of 13, which I've added here, and it had a cost of only 5, so it's really good to produce that 5th unit. That 5th unit added 8 to welfare. If you repeat for the 6th unit, the 6th unit could have added 12 to welfare. It only cost 6 to society, so overall could have added 6 to welfare. So I don't know from this graph what is the total welfare so far, but let's say total welfare was 100. By producing the 5th unit, you now have 108. By producing the 6th unit, you have 114. The 7th unit, you have 118 welfare, 120 welfare, and is the highest possible at 9. It can't go any higher, so it's best to produce 9 units and not 5. So if you were to produce the lower unit, in this case 4 units, welfare is sacrificed, it's forgone. You have given up adding all these 20 units of welfare because you've only produced less than 5 units. If you had produced 9, you could have gained all that welfare. So this is why we say that a free market being selfish and producing less than what is optimum actually creates a welfare loss compared to what would be achieved at the social optimum. Or you could phrase it as a potential welfare gain by not producing QFM and instead producing at QSO. In practice, you wouldn't draw probably all those lines and all the numbers where you get the costs and the benefits. Instead, you can just shade that all in as a triangle. What you're implicitly assuming here is there are many units between QFM and QSO, and you're just shading in all the welfare gains that could be achieved, or in this case, welfare lost by producing at QFM and not QSO. I've summarized the process here. You can follow in easy steps to figure out where that welfare loss is. So only look at the units between QFM and QSO. Like, that means ignore the rest of the graph. And for those units, you want to sum up the difference between the MSB and the MPB. Oh, MSB and the MSC, I said that wrong. And it's always going to be a triangle. There's a couple of shortcut ways to learn this. Hopefully I've explained the theory behind it. But in terms of a shortcut, it will always be a triangle between QFM and QSO that points towards a social optimum equilibrium. Remember, that one was a social optimum, so it kind of points towards there. So I hope that was really useful for you to see what the welfare loss is in merit goods, or the potential welfare gain. We're going to take a look at the negative externalities in consumption and the same process again in the next video. Catch you then. Thank you so much. Bye.